lied time and time again about how he has regular working class tastes, has been getting paid, bribed, or at least accepting several luxury trips paid for by a GOP megadonor.
A brand new report is raising some serious questions about Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas and the lavish gifts that he reportedly accepted from a GOP megadonor. ProPublica says that the luxury vacations from billionaire Harlan Crow...
Just dunking on black people today? Yeah, I know. Don't worry, I'm gonna salvage it in a little bit when I watch the Gideon video, White is Right. I know. Well, actually, technically, we started off with Tennessee being racist, so at least there was that.
Were never disclosed, and according to these ProPublica, these are photos of Clarence Thomas and his wife, Ginny Thomas, with Crow and others during a trip to Indonesia back in 2019. The report says that the Thomas...
I'm going to say, maybe Dr. Umar is not all that wrong. That's not always, but this time, you got to hand it to him. This is one instance.
Thomas flew on Crow's private jet to Indonesia for the 9-day luxury vacation, one that they say is valued at more than $500,000. Now, ProPublica goes on to say that the extent and frequency of Crow's apparent gifts to Thomas have no known precedent in the modern history of the United States Supreme Court. And just
dude, I'm not sure. Remember, Clarence got his start in a movement like what Dr. Umar was in? Yeah, and then he fucking read what's his face? Thomas Sowell, and like, dude, it's the lamest way to radicalize. You read a Thomas Sowell book and fucking Fountainhead, and then you become like this disgusting anti-black fucking weirdo. It's the worst. Like, it's the lamest way to get radicalized, dude. So whack. Dr. Umar is high-key racist. Okay, first of all, we're making jokes. That's number one. And number two, so is Clarence Thomas, okay? But in the other direction. And again, Dr. Umar, very memeable. Clarence Thomas, no memes. Can't make a meme. Motherfucker likes bestiality. And again, still not memeable. Ridiculous.
Minutes ago, Senate Majority Whip Dick Durbin had this to say, quote, "The ProPublica report is a call to action, and the Senate Judiciary Committee will act." CNN Supreme Court reporter Ariane DeVogue is joining us now with more on this very eyebrow-raising story. So, Ariane, how unprecedented is this, really?
It's unheard of at the Supreme Court. This ProPublica report really detailing these lavish trips that Justice Clarence Thomas took and that were paid for by this mega donor, and trips, like you said, New Zealand, Indonesia, on private jets, private yachts, at private resorts. But what's really important here is to put
He was fucking balling. He was balling. He's balling.
To context, because it comes as the Supreme Court right now is under this white-hot spotlight where more and more people are thinking that the court is becoming more political, less a judicial branch, more like just another political branch. And you see Congress right now, it's moving, it wants more ethics disclosure. He himself, Thomas, is arguably the most conservative member of the court. And of course, his wife, Ginny Thomas, came under fire several months ago for texts that she sent to members of Trump's team in an effort to overturn election results. So this is all coming when the Supreme Court is in the middle of this swirling controversy, and it causes trouble for Clarence Thomas. And of course,
I love, like, listen, I love when people go, I mean, I know why she's doing it, because like her job is to remain impartial, and part of that impartiality revolves around in order to like beef up her argument, she has to say that like the Supreme Court is not supposed to be political. Okay, here, I don't want to give her a rough pause here.
What there's
like part of that is supposed to, you know, I guess, reinforce the lie that you don't know that the Supreme Court is political. You know what I mean? But it's always funny when, other people who are just like regular commentators say it. And it's like, when wasn't it political? Like, there's never been a moment where the Supreme Court wasn't political. That's not a thing. It's either the good kind of political, or they get like minor civil liberties, offer minor civil liberties, or the bad kind of political, where throughout the history of the United States, they've just done awful things.
Saying now is Harlan Crow, this Dallas businessman, he was the one who paid for this. It was never disclosed, and he has given more, according to ProPublica, than $10 million in political contributions over the years.
Yeah, I mean, that's really stunning. So, Ariane, what has Harlan Crow said about all of this?
Well, he did release a statement that we got a copy of. He said, "We have never asked about a pending or lower court case, and Justice Thomas has never discussed one, and we have never..."
Yeah, we just love hanging out with him, dude. We have never asked about a pending or lower court case, and Justice Thomas has never discussed one, and we have never sought to influence Justice Thomas or any other on any legal or political issue.
To influence Justice Thomas on any legal or political issue. He says he's unaware of any of our friends ever lobbying or seeking to influence Justice Thomas. But the thing is, it really does put a spotlight on ethics at the Supreme Court, because the Judicial Conference just recently amended its own rules, and it would cover things like staying in a private resort, private jets. It said that those things have to be disclosed. So maybe arguably Thomas could say, look, before that they didn't need to be disclosed, so I didn't have to disclose it. But there's also federal law in place, and it says
8 out of 8 cases that this guy's been connected to, Thomas has ruled in favor of. I'll be honest with you, even if that guy hadn't greased Clarence Thomas's wheels, he'd still be in favor of it. That's why he's in the position that he's in. Like, he was going to rule that way anyway. In a lot of instances, the same principle stands for NRA lobbying money, right? American Republican politicians get lobbying money from the NRA, but that's not the reason why they defend the NRA tooth and nail. That's just, a little bit of icing on the top. They're going to defend the NRA regardless because it's a wedge issue that benefits them because their constituents want that. So then wouldn't that make this not bribery? No, it's still bribery. Just because if he wasn't getting fucking paid for that, he would have ruled in a different direction. Doesn't change the reality that it's still bribery. They're just, they're just happy. Yeah, for chat, remember, Clarence Thomas is an originalist, meaning he tries to judge based on how the fucking founding fathers would have, meaning slave-owning white men who saw black people as property. Clarence Thomas is a fucking terrible human. He is. He's a bad person. He's a bad person both in his private life and his private affairs, and he's a bad person in the way that he has decided on Supreme Court cases. He's just a bad person in general. This really looks like he was brought along on their family vacations, Lamau. Yeah, it is kind of wild. Maybe he does just like him, dude. It's kind of weird. Like, this doesn't seem like some highfalutin, sex tourist ass shit. This just seems like a family vacay that him and his wife were allowed to join in on. Oh, by the way, new update from Tennessee. They did quite literally vote out the 2 black guys, and the one white lady was spared in the process. Yeah. It must be a coincidence.